This message is transmitted at the request of the United States Office of Civil Defense. At 3:40 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, NORAD detected a long-range nuclear missile launch in North Korea. This missile is believed to be headed in the direction of the Los Angeles metropolitan area. It is believed that it will impact this area within the next 1.5 to 2 hours. All residents within a 400-mile radius of this area should seek a fallout shelter immediately.
Something must be done. Wake up, America. Be hopeful and be strong.
The only real effect I can have is to create the impression that things aren't as bad as they are. To give our people time, the opportunity to survive.
I guess I just never realized I'd gone so far. We'd lost so much control.
Totalitarianism doesn't need armies. It only needs to control a couple of things. The media and the ability to dispense privilege to some and withhold it from others. And of course, a weak and divided people helps.
Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Zan here. How you guys doing? Let me get my microphone adjusted so that it is at the appropriate level. How is everybody doing tonight? Hopefully, everybody can hear me. Let me see if I can actually hear myself, and yes, I can. Well, thanks for showing up tonight. We certainly appreciate it. As you can tell, we actually have a new microphone. You know, when you have freedom, you get fat and happy. When you get fat and happy, you stop paying attention. When you stop paying attention, your freedom disappears. When your freedom disappears, you lose your job. When you lose your job, you have less money. When you have less money, you get depressed. When you get depressed, you eat too much. When you eat too much, you get fat and sad. When you get fat and sad, you're easy to pick off. Don't be easy to pick off. Upgrade to being awake today. Anyways, let's get on with the show. Let me check a couple of things here. Yes, everything is going absolutely perfectly. And all of our recorders are going, and we are, in fact, on the air. Tonight's top story is, let me get rid of that title right there, and there we go. Tonight's top story is a very, very interesting one, and it is this. This comes to us from Tom's Guide Web Life. That's Tom's Guide Web Life. It is actually at tomsguide.com. I repeat, tomsguide.com. This is a very interesting story that is our top story for tonight, published on May 4th, 2012 by Kevin Parrish. This is, the source of this is cnet.com. That's cnet.com. The FBI is getting impatient and wants a backdoor to Facebook, Skype, Google Hangouts, and other services now to catch evildoers and others. I added that part in. It's no big secret that the FBI wants a backdoor to every American website planted on the internet. However, the government agency now wants the secret entrance unlocked as soon as possible, like right this very minute, because the drastic shift from using telephones to using the internet has made it nearly impossible for agents to wiretap Americans suspected of foul play. The Bureau calls it going dark, as its surveillance capabilities may diminish as technology advances if things don't change. Now, one thing to keep in mind is that Microsoft owns Skype and Hotmail. Apple owns iChat and FaceTime, and Google owns, of course, Google Voice. Now, there is, of course, a few thoughts that I have. And those thoughts are this. When we first started this show, we used an online calling service. We used both Google Voice. Pardon me, I have an itchy eye. We used Google Voice as well as a couple of other services that I will not name. If you're a regular viewer, you know what service we used. Now, when we had our guests on frequently, especially with Cliff High, Boris Artemenko, and a few others, partway through the call, partway through the voice over IP call, we were hacked into. Now, if this wasn't the FBI doing this to shut us up, obviously somebody can hack in to these VoIP systems. They installed a backdoor, a trapdoor, on our audio server so they could get in. We, of course, have removed it, and we don't use that system anymore. We use a landline to do all of our interviews. Now, if these hackers, these disinformationalists, if you will, can get into these systems and know my computer, even with the antivirus and the firewalls running, if they can get into this, surely the FBI doesn't need the permission of anybody to do it. The only thing they're doing, in my view, is attempting to circumvent wiretapping laws with the current acts that are in act, like the Patriot Act and things like that. So, anyways, that is our top story tonight. Now, there is another very, very interesting thing that is happening in real time. And that is this. Those of you that were tuned in during the pre-show music, I was showing this on the screen, and that is this. Right here on the screen, you can see a nearly live view of the sun. And what we have is this right here. Yes, in fact, yes, indeedy, it is another one of those spheres that we have been seeing around the sun. Let me call up my, hold on a second here. Let me use this image. This image was from earlier today. It was from, let me see here, let me scroll over here, 16:15:01 Universal Time. Let me bring that one up, and you can see the same sphere right here. Now, what I have done is I have taken this image, and I have, in fact, enhanced it so that you can see this sphere a lot better. You can see it. Hold on a minute. Let me get rid of that circle. You can see it right here. That is a grayscale black and white image that I have enhanced the contrast on. So let's go to another image that I have, which is right here. That is a color image. This is also earlier today. And you can see the arrow pointing to the sphere. It is plain as day. This is when it was forming. And the interesting thing about this one is you can actually see that little tornado thing coming up to it. So let's go back to the screen and the live image. Let's see, 22:14:49. Let's reload it and see what happens. Here comes the image right here. And this image is from 22:45. So it is a more recent image. And as you can see, the sphere is still there. In fact, you can see that tornado coming up from the sun is, well, it is certainly there. Let me take this, and for those of you that are at the Sun Sky Mysteries site, we have the Twitter feed going there, and let me tweet that particular. There we go. I have tweeted that particular link to these images so that you can actually go to the website and see it. Of course, if you're not watching the show live, you're out of luck. Now, let's go back to the backdoor story that we were just talking about. The FBI wants those backdoors, and they want it right now. According to CNET, the FBI General Counsel's office has drafted a proposal law that would require social networking websites and providers of email, instant messaging, and VoIP to alter their services with additional code to make them wiretap friendly. Thank you very much. Welcome to the 21st century. Our next story, we've only got 3 stories tonight, so we're essentially doing yet another test broadcast. I am, of course, got all the recorders going. I have the fancy new microphone set up. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what position I want the microphone in, but this seems to work. Plus, if my mouth and my voice get out of sync, you won't be able to see it, which is a great thing. Now, let's go over here. Remember last night, I was telling you about that super duper secret document about the relocation and internment camps, the one that came from the DOJ. Now, after some talking to some fellow broadcasters, we have come to the conclusion that this is not a false flag, but they ran this up the flagpole to see who would salute so they could take names and locations for the appropriate time. Whether or not that's true, it's only my opinion and the opinion of other broadcasters, but we shall see. Now, as far as this particular document goes, the relocation thing, yeah, just check any one of the online forums. It's going to be there somewhere. Trust me, it's out there. Big as day. You can go to, I think it's called usarmy.mil or something like that, and you can download it for free. It's out there, and they don't mind if you see it, apparently. The problem with having the Army or the military operating on United States soil is the 1878 military law called POSSE COMITATUS. Let's look at an article about that you see right here. Let me zoom in on it a little bit better so that you can actually see the article that I am talking about. This article, believe it or not, is from way back about the time we invented the wheel. That was right after we invented the fire on November 24th, 2001. This bit of relative antiquity defines the role of U.S. military in our lives and keeps us from becoming little more than a wealthy banana republic. Looks like they're a little bit late on that deal. Currently, America's military is largely prohibited from acting as a domestic police force. And while the presence of military quote-unquote advisors during the siege, brutality, and slaughter at Waco, Texas set ominous trends in motion, few thought in terms of its implications. But that was before the terrorism of September 11th, 2001. Now glibly called 9/11. Our way of life has changed forever, wrote Senator John Warner, Republican, Virginia, in an October 2001 letter to Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld. Should this law, POSSE COMITATUS Act, now be changed to enable our active duty military to more fully join other domestic assets in this war against terrorism. The law was championed by far-sighted Southern lawmakers in 1878. They had experienced a 15-year military occupation by the U.S. Army post-Civil War law enforcement. They understood the heel of a jackboot. Well, isn't that interesting? That is a part of the history of Posse Comitatus that I did not know. I know it was passed in 1878. I suspected it was something to do with the Civil War. I did not know that Southern representatives had drafted that law. At any rate, the Posse Comitatus Act is very interesting, and it is also, this article is at this particular website right here. It is called, this is the name of the website where this particular article came from, dojgov.net. That's dojgov.net. Again, let me go ahead and tweet this so that those of you at sunskyMysteries.com, and we will be putting it at the Celine ETV website. That should be coming up on your screen in just a minute. You can click on that link and head on over and see this article. I, of course, have removed the background from this web page so that you can see it better. Let's see. Here it is. June 18th, 1878, Chapter 263, an act making appropriations for the support of the Army for fiscal year ending June 13th, 1879, and for other purpose. Section 15. This is probably the first time you've ever actually seen the Posse Comitatus in its actual original form, where it is right here. I've got it highlighted in blue right now. From and after the passage of this act, it shall not be lawful to employ any part of the Army of the United States as a posse comitatus or otherwise for the purpose of executing laws, except in such cases and under such circumstances as employment of said force may be expressly authorized by the Constitution or by act of Congress, and no money appropriated by this act shall be used to pay for any of the expenses incurred in employment of any troops. So, what we have here is something that's relatively explicit back then. You got to remember, back then they didn't have 2,000-page documents to use for a law like we do now, which is just splendid. Apparently, as the numbers of the years get bigger, so do the laws. Now, this also brings us to another article that I wanted to bring up for you, and that is after this article. And I believe that it is actually related to that previous article, to what I was just talking about. And again, if you watch the show live at 7 p.m., you can engage in the chat room with everybody else. We have the chat, of course, at the website, and you can interact with me and help discuss these articles and the news that I bring you. Now, let's go over and look at this particular article. And that is this: 40 years of executive orders trashes our constitutional guarantee of liberty. Now, on May 16th, we are going to be talking with a constitutional and Christian expert. Her name is Dr. Carol M. Swain. She's going to be with us for 30 minutes and do a 30-minute interview. On that night, I will be beginning the broadcast at 6:30 so that we can discuss her book and what she has to discuss in advance to get everybody sort of primed up. So you want to make sure you tune in on May 16th. Now, let's go back to this article right here. Obama puts Americans under control of a foreign police force. Some of you may actually remember this happening. I do. This was very upsetting. On 27 December 2009, little known to the American people, President Barack Hussein Obama signed an executive order on December 17, 2009, placing the United States and his people one step closer to a world government. The White House released Executive Order 12425. It grants Interpol, the International Crime Police Organization, a new level of full diplomatic immunity afforded to foreign embassies and select other international organizations as set forth in the United Nations International Organizations Immunities Act of 1945, blah, blah, blah. What that means is that since 2009, Interpol can operate with diplomatic immunity inside the United States. And as you know, they are a police agency. So everybody that is crowing and crying about having foreign troops in the United States, they are exactly right. Interpol has immunity to act within the United States outside of the scope of local law enforcement and federal law enforcement. They act with impunity. They have diplomatic immunity that was given to them in 2009 by the president. Now, this article goes on, and this is one of those articles that we are going to be covering over several nights, just like the 21 things that they, in quotes, don't want us to talk about, that we in fact are talking about. We have those 21 things, and now we have this. Now I want you to read this very carefully, this part that's in red. A presidential executive order, whether constitutional or not, becomes law simply by its publication in the Federal Registry. Congress is bypassed. What that means is the president can sign an executive order that says from now on everybody's got to be naked, and that's the law of the land. Nothing you can do about it. The president is allowed to do that. What it does, what this activity does, is it circumvents the judicial branch of the government, and it circumvents the congressional, the legislative branch of the government. So it takes Congress and the Senate and the Supreme Court completely out of the equation, and the president can just, any president, doesn't matter, just not this president, any president, can just go ahead and sign an executive order and bingo, bango, thank you, we're done. Have a nice day. This executive order is now the law of the land. In this article, there are some very interesting executive orders. Here are just a few executive orders that would suspend the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. These executive orders could be enacted by the stroke of a presidential pen. It should be noted that over time some of the following executive orders have been rescinded or replaced by others. But the true terror to our liberty rests with the ease in which they can be issued and how earlier orders are more frequently replaced by those of a more draconian nature. And we have, in fact, discussed some of these before on the show. Let's look at these. Let's look at the first few for the rest of the show, because as I said, this is a test show, and we are, in fact, not doing a full-length show. We're just testing the recording system and everything else to make sure it works correctly. Executive Order 10990, 10,990, allows the government to take over all modes of transportation and control of the highways and seaports. Executive Order 10,995 allows the government to seize and control all of the communications media. Executive Order 10,997 allows the government to take over all electrical power, gas, petroleum, fuels, and minerals. Do we need to go on? 10,998 allows the government to take over all food resources and farms. Executive Order 11,000 allows the government to mobilize civilians, into work brigades under government supervision. Executive Order 11,001 allows the government to take over all health, education, and welfare functions. Executive Order 11,002 designates the Postmaster General to operate a national registration of all persons. Now, remember, a few weeks ago, here are these executive orders that I have been just talking about right here. We will be talking about them over the next week or so. I'll let them sit on the screen so that you can read them. As I give you my thoughts on this, remember a few weeks ago, the President issued his latest executive order, and I think, yes, the one that I am thinking about, hold on one moment, we're going to go over here to our social media website, SeleneETV.com, and you will see on the front page, I actually have a letter from Kay Granger, a member of Congress, regarding one of these latest executive orders. And I will read this to you because you can't really see it here. Let me see if I can zoom in on it a little bit more. There we go. Maybe you can see that. Let's see here. Let me zoom in on it even more. There we go. This is an open letter from Kay Granger, Congresswoman of Texas. With all that is going on in Washington these days, some things don't make the news the way they should. 14 days ago, President Obama issued an executive order that you should know about. This order gives an unprecedented level of authority to the President and the federal government to take over all fundamental parts of our economy in the name of national security in times of national emergency. All they have to do is declare a national emergency, and bam! This means all of our water resources, construction services and materials, steel, concrete, etc., our civilian transportation system, food and health resources, our energy supplies, including oil and natural gas, even farm equipment, can be taken over by the President and his cabinet secretaries. The government can also draft U.S. citizens into the military and force U.S. citizens to fulfill labor requirements for the purpose of national defense. All of that is on the front page of our website, Selene ETV. The address is right there. So you can go there and read this letter from Kay Granger, a member of Congress, to her constituents and the American people. So that is some interesting bits of news for tonight. Tomorrow night, we may actually take the night off. I am not entirely sure at this point. I am still working on this recording system and the placement of our new microphone, because this thing's great. I can bang on the table and not cause any horrible thumping on the microphone, which is my goal, because when I get upset on the show, I like to bang on the table. Just like that. So, until the next time, until tomorrow night, my name is Bill Zam. Thank you so much for showing up, and we will begin repeating some of our previous shows right now. So, till tomorrow night, thanks for showing up, or Monday night, we'll see. We'll see how things go. Until then, we will see you later, and in the meantime, let's finish up the show with our special Andrew Breitbart theme song.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Now disco, disco, disco.
more not organized, but ready to fight. 60,000 soldiers.
You're listening to the world.
Can you dig it?
You're listening to the world.
Can you dig it?
You're listening to the world.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
You're listening to the world.
Bumping, bumping, thumping, bumping,